Good morning, students. This is Mrs. Santosh Lodha, your economics teacher, and you're welcome to your online versus classes. Students, we have already completed with the macro second chapter, that is money and banking. Today we are going to start with the third chapter, that is determination of income and employment. Before proceeding further, I would like to tell you a few things. First of all, you might be knowing my phone number, WhatsApp number, that is 9727914025. If you have any doubt, you can just contact me on that number. You can just put your doubts on that and you can directly contact with me. If not, then you can just go through the video, and there is one page created on our website, doubt session type. There you can just put your doubts so that once again the school can connect with me and I can just resolve your doubts. Okay, students? I hope you might be healthy, wealthy, and okay. Stay home and stay safe as usual. I'm missing a lot, students. After a long gap, I don't know when we are going to meet once again. And I hope that you might be doing your studies. The previous lectures you might have studied properly, you might have seen properly, and I hope that you can go through the videos again and again. This is for your betterment that we are recording the lectures. And I'm going to bring one more session, that is live session, and I'll just give you the call. I mean to say, I can just invite you for that meeting. Just check your this one WhatsApp. I can connect you anytime. So you can you'll be invited by me and you can join the class. Any doubt you can resolve in that particular class, Zoom classes. Okay, students? So download the Zoom and be ready. I can connect you anytime. Now today's topic. Let's start with our today's chapter. Okay. As I said, today's topic is income and employment. That is determination of income and employment. We are going to do the first part of determination of income and employment, that is aggregate demand and related concepts of it, right? Aggregate demand and related concepts of it. You already studied in your microeconomics, that is in 11th standard, what is demand, right? Today we are going to study about aggregate demand. These are the topics which we are going to cover under this particular chapter, but obviously today we are not going to cover all the topics. You can see meaning and components of aggregate demand. Today we are going to read this thing, especially meaning and components of aggregate demand and some other properties of aggregate demand. Why determination of income and employment is necessary? First of all, we should know why it is important, because income and employment are the two major concepts of any economy. How? Because if more income is there, obviously more employment will be created. And if more employment is there, once again, they can earn more and they can earn more income. If once again more income is there, that extra income can be utilized for the productive purposes. That is like by opening more institute, by giving more employment opportunities, once again, the income will be generated and national income level will increase. So it will goes on increasing. Understood, student? That's why we need to find out that how income and employment is very much important for any economy. Once again, here we can say if output is more, obviously income is more. How? Because this is production. If we'll sell more products, obviously income will be generated by those products will be more. And if obviously if income is more, how it will be more? The income is more. Why? That means more production is done, more employment opportunities might be there. So this income, whatever output is produced by the people, the salaries or like the I would say the four factors of production might have got the income through this thing. So employment opportunity might have been created. Or we can say all the three concepts are related to each other. We have already studied in national income, if you remember. Right, students? Once again, one more example is given over here, that how more employment can create more employment, more output can create employment opportunities. Here also, with the graphical way, it is already shown that how economy can generate more income, obviously with the help of output. If more output is there, income will be generated more. As I said, more output means more employment means more income, right? This is like graphical mode of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Students, last year we have already studied about the demand and supply. Wherever the demand and supply was meeting, we used to call it as equilibrium point. But that was equilibrium price, right? And price is a individual theory. I'm going to say like micro level, only price of one product or something like that we can read. But here we are studying at the macro level. So in macro level, what we are going to study about? We are going to study about aggregate demand, that is AD, and aggregate supply, that is AS, right? And aggregate supply is always equal to income. That is, Y is nothing but income, right? Aggregate supply is always equal to income. Aggregate supply is income. Income is Y. Income is denoted in economics as Y. Aggregate demand is AD. So when aggregate demand and aggregate supply, wherever it will meet, an equilibrium point will be there, but that equilibrium point is called as income. Okay, income and employment and output. That means if we'll utilize this much income for our production purposes, okay, and same products are consumed, that is demanded by the product people, then what will happen? We'll have an equilibrium level in our economy. That means we have utilized this much income and we have given this much employment, and output has been derived by utilizing this much income. So once again we can say this particular level, wherever aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, this particular point wherever aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply is nothing but, this is the point where income, employment and output will be equal. That means the economy is satisfied. Generally, this situation is very difficult to arrive at this particular situation in any of the economy, because we cannot say that whatever we are producing, everything is consumed by the economy. Whatever we are producing, everything is sold out, everything is demanded by the public. That means in any economy, if the economy is in good position, if the economy want to be developed economy, then whatever they are producing, it should be consumed by the people. That means aggregate demand should be equal to aggregate supply. Then only this is the, we can say it's a good situation or good sign of a foreign economy. You can see here, once again, another example is given that if output helps in employment generation, more output, obviously, if employment opportunities will increase, if we want to produce more, right? If the demand is more, what will happen? To overcome the demand, what will be doing? Will, that is the supplier will start producing more. And if you want to produce more, he will employ more people. That's why whenever we used to say that if we have to increase the output, obviously we need to increase employment, right? Next, what is the meaning and components of aggregate demand? Here you can see what is the meaning of aggregate demand. First of all, aggregate demand refers to the total value of final goods and services which all the sectors of an economy are planning. See, listen students, note it down. This is an important term. Planning to buy at a given level of income during a period of one counting year. Why these are the important terms? Planning to buy, given level of income. See, any economy, whatever income level is there. Say, for example, in our India, we have 200 crore worth of rupees. And if the 200 crore, for that 200 crore rupees only, we are making the planning. And on the basis of the planning, if we meet our planning properly, that is, suppose if we execute our planning and aggregate demand and aggregate supply is equal according to our income, then we can say it's a good sign for our economy. Our economy is a developed economy. But doesn't it, it will never happen. I would say it is not happening in any of the nation. It's very difficult to arrive at the equilibrium point. Now, this particular aggregate demand, what are the components of this aggregate demand? You can see this is through the, this particular concept has been given by Keynes, right? Already we have studied about the Keynes. Now this particular concept is known as simple Keynesian model. This is aggregate demand concept is given by Keynes. Okay, that's why we call this as Keynesian theory or Keynesian model. Here you can see aggregate expenditure. What is the meaning of AE? AE means nothing but aggregate expenditure. What is the meaning of aggregate expenditure? That is, aggregate expenditure is aggregate demand. Aggregate expenditure is equal to, always, it should be equal to consumption, okay, plus investment, plus government, plus NX means net export. You have studied in national income, that is like expenditure method. If you remember, in the expenditure method, these were the components, right? So once again, we are revising over here. These are the components of aggregate demand. What are the components? Consumption expenditure, that is C, plus planned investment expenditure, that is I, and that government spending, that is G, plus net export, right, students? But we are going to study from the starting itself. We have said that we are going to assume as though we are studying about only two sector model theory. So whenever we are talking about two sector model, obviously we know that in two sector model, G will not be there and NX will be not there. There will be no government and there will be no NX, that is no export import. Why? Because we feel that the two sector model is nothing but closed economy. That is, whatever is produced in an economy is everything is consumed by the same economy people, right? So in such a situation, what will happen? Let's check. Now, this is simple Keynesian model, that is actual aggregate demand expenditure includes actual investment, that is actual investment, and not planned investment as required for equilibrium output and determination. It will never include the planned investment. It is actual. We are talking about Keynesian model, that is related to only always actual. Now, what is the difference between the actual and the planned one? For example, if a person has a planning to say, for example, he is ready to spend 500 rupees for his shoes, right? But he went to the market and he gets the shoes at 400 rupees itself. What was his planning? He was planning to spend 500, but he got it at 400. So actually it's 400, but he planned for 500. It can be reverse also. He might have planned for more, he might have planned for less, and actual might have been more. But it cannot be possible because generally a person will plan only according to his budget, and that's why always we have to assume as though the planned investment, okay, whatever you are planning is more than whatever actual has taken place, okay. Otherwise, like in a economy like India, what we are doing, if our planned investment is less and if we are spending more, then we are borrowing from other nations. We have to borrow from the other nation. That situation, to avoid that situation, what we should do, always remember that planned investment should be more rather than the actual investment, okay. Now here, once again, this is the total planned expenditure. This is total planned expenditure, and total planned expenditure, what is includes, that is aggregate expenditure. Total planned expenditure is nothing but aggregate expenditure. We are planning that how much we are going to spend. We are planning that this much consumption will take place. What is the C? C means consumption. Consumption means here, once again, I'll tell you, consumption means the total consumption. Okay, the actual consumption, the actual demand which will take place in our economy, right? Plus investment, the total investment, whichever is taking place in our economy. So all the parts are there. Now here you can see simple Keynesian model. There is actual investment, once again, is equal to planned investment plus unplanned investment. Actual investment is nothing but planned plus unplanned. As I said, actual investment, what is actual investment? Planned plus unplanned. Here you can say what is happening. If aggregate demand is not equal to output produced, for example, in an economy, whatever production has taken place, we might have planned that we have to produce this much because this much demand can be there in our nation for the next year. But on the reverse, that demand will not have taken place. Now, if you see the present situation, what might have happened? The production might have taken place from the month of January itself. They might have produced a lot of things, thinking that the whole year the consumption will take place. But due to this coronavirus and this thing, COVID-18, you know that market has been shut down since last 1.5 months, or I don't know till what date it will be shut down. So obviously the total business has been spoiled. So whatever production has taken place, do you think that same thing will be consumed by the people? No, the consumption will decrease. Then at the end, what will happen? Either the demand will increase because the production might not have done so much, or the production will be more. That is, the inventory will be unplanned inventory will be kept in the stock. Okay, any one situation may arise. But actually, whenever such a thing will happen, like we don't know generally what will happen, but this is general theory that after the COVID-19, the demand will be more, but whereas the production on this contrary side will be less only. Why? Because people are not having so much amount to produce. Now you can see here equilibrium level of income, how it will be arriving on the equilibrium level. Planned spending is equal to always actual output. This should happen. Then only we can say we can arrive on the equilibrium level. That is, planned spending should be equal to the actual output. Whatever we are thinking that this much we are going to produce, and that same level of output, actual output, should be taken place. Spending here means all the four factors of production, payment, and actual output means the total production. This should be equal. Obviously, it should be equal. Otherwise, what will happen? Imbalance economy will take place. There will be no balance. Now, there is no involuntary inventory accumulation or rundown. What does it mean? That means people might be thinking when generally when we are talking about the market economy is wherever the I would say that forces of the demand and supply, due to that reason, the production, the market situation will take place. Market situation means here I'm talking about production as well as the consumption. So thinking that this much production will be consumed by the people, if the producers will keep on producing more and more, but on the contrary side, if we see that much demand is not there, then what will happen? The inventory will be accumulated. The stock will be there. Unsold stock will remain with the producers. The next year, what he will do? Just to avoid the accumulation of inventory, just to avoid, once again, stock of unsold stock, what he will be doing? He'll stop producing more. He will decrease the production. If he'll decrease the production, he will decrease the employment. If we decrease the employment, income will decrease. If the income will decrease, what will happen? National income will go down. If the national income will go down, you can know the circular flow of income, which we have already studied. So this will have a great impact on our economy. So this should not take place. That is, there should not be any accumulated inventory. So for that, what we should assume that planned spending should be equal to planned, actual output. Okay. Here you can see aggregate expenditure. As I said at the first slide, that equilibrium expenditure and equilibrium output. What is that? Two sector closed economy only. We are thinking about its firms and household. There is no government, no taxes, no subsidies, and no profit. Because of this reason only, we have to assume as though aggregate expenditure and equilibrium output. What is this? Aggregate expenditure. Y is equal to C plus S. What is the meaning of C? C means total consumption and S means savings, right? This is a part of aggregate supply. Aggregate supply, which is equal to saving and consumption. Okay. Aggregate expenditure. Sorry, this is aggregate expenditure is equal to C plus I. C means consumption, I means investment, right? And income is equal to, income is what? If you remember, I told you income is nothing but aggregate supply. So this concept is for aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is equal to C plus S, that is consumption plus saving. But whereas aggregate expenditure means aggregate demand, right, students? Aggregate demand is equal to C plus I. Now you can see here, what is the common over here? C. C is common, right? So we can say C plus S is equal to C plus I. Why? As I said, in an economy, the aggregate expenditure should be equal to aggregate supply. That is, just now we read that if planned investment or the planned expenditure, it should be equal to the total output, actual output. So this is a situation over here. If this is the situation, what will be happening? See, it's here. It's clearly written. Y is aggregate supply and A is aggregate demand. So aggregate supply C plus S and aggregate demand is C plus I. This should be equal. If this is equal, then what is the situation? That means the formula C plus S is equal to C plus I. As I said, once again, I'll tell you, Y is nothing but aggregate supply, AS, and A is nothing but aggregate demand, right? As I said, this should be equal in any economy, right? If this should be equal, then what is the component of aggregate supply? Aggregate supply's component is C plus S, and aggregate demand's component is C plus I. We can say, instead of writing y is equal to A, we can write C plus S is equal to C plus I. That is C plus investment, consumption plus investment. That means C cut, right? And you'll be getting S is equal to I. That is saving is equal to investment. That's why we used to say that saving should be equal to investment. Here you can see with the particular figure that this is income, right? And this is savings. This is investment, right? Production investment. Whatever saving we are doing, if this saving, total saving is utilized for the production purposes, that is investment, then obviously there will be no problem in an economy. And this should be the situation. If it is not like that, then obviously the economy is having a imbalanced economy. Now, here you can see aggregate demand and aggregate equilibrium output with the help of a curve. You can see this is actual saving curve. Okay, actual saving is equal to A plus SY. Expenditure, aggregate expenditure, once again, another curve. It's clearly explained over here that what are the curves here. 45-degree line, which is 45-degree line, that is A here. It is this one. This one is 45-degree line. Y. Okay. Y means, as I said, aggregate supply. It is having 45-degree line. We have to assume as the actual output is equal to actual expenditure. That is 45-degree line is a locus of point equidistant from both the axes. That's why we call 45-degree line. That is, from both the sides, it is having equal distance, right? Both the sides, x as well as y, right, student? And that's nothing but this y curve. That means AS curve, aggregate supply curve. At each point on this line, output and aggregate expenditure are equal. That is output, this side output and this side aggregate expenditure. Both are equal, as I said. Intersection of AE and the 45-degree line. 45-degree line here is nothing but AS. Gives the equilibrium level of income where planned spending equals value of output produced. Right, students? This is the point wherever aggregate supply and aggregate demand meets. And this is the point where we can say income as well as output. If you remember in the previous curve, we have already seen that this is income, employment, and output will be equilibrium at the point wherever aggregate supply curve and aggregate demand curve will intersect each other, right? That's what is written over here. You can see in the last slide what is written. In equilibrium, see it's written in equilibrium, aggregate supply must equal to the aggregate demand. That's what we have seen. It is equal to the value of output, right, students? Okay. So today we are going to read only this much. In the next slide, I'm going to explain you further parts, students.